Imagine taking hundreds of beavers, those furry, dam-building rodents from forests, and releasing them into a dry desert with hardly any water. It might sound like a terrible idea, right? How could they possibly survive? And what could they possibly accomplish in such a harsh environment? But what happened next surprised everyone, confused scientists, and completely changed the land. This is the true story of how a group of beavers helped bring life back to one of the driest regions in North America, and why experts now call them nature's little heroes, the dry land. In the American West, especially in places like Idaho, Nevada, and parts of Utah, water is incredibly scarce. Many years of overgrazing by livestock, poor land management, and long periods of drought have left vast areas dry and empty. Rivers and streams that once provided water have either dried up or reduced to mere trickles. The land, which was once rich in plant life, is now cracked and barren, with nothing but dust and parched soil. The lush green valleys are long gone, replaced by harsh desert landscapes. In some parts of Idaho, the situation was so bad that nothing grew. The few water sources that remained were nothing more than small puddles, barely enough to keep the land alive. Ranchers who relied on the land to feed their cattle watched helplessly as the earth seemed to slowly lose all of its vitality. The lack of water meant the grass died, the soil grew hard, and the animals, both wild and domesticated, had a harder time surviving. Efforts to reverse the damage, like planting grass, redirecting water, and even building dams, had all failed. These measures had little effect, and the land remained dry and lifeless. It was clear that the situation was becoming more desperate with each passing year. The Beaver Effect Beavers. At first, the idea of putting beavers in the desert sounded absolutely crazy. After all, beavers are known for living near water and are famous for building dams. So, how could they possibly survive in a place where water was so scarce? Many people dismissed the idea as ridiculous and laughed at the thought. Some even worried that the beavers might not be able to adapt and would just die off. However, a few brave ecologists and land managers decided to look deeper into the situation. They knew that beavers are some of nature's greatest engineers. These creatures have an incredible ability to slow down the flow of water, create channels, and even build entire wetlands, sometimes in the most unexpected places. When given the right environment, beavers could help bring water back to dry lands. Could these natural engineers be the answer to revitalizing the desert? The idea was intriguing. Beavers don't just build dams, they change the very environment around them. Could they restore life to a barren, dry landscape? Some ecologists believe that with a little help, beavers might be able to kickstart a process of natural restoration and revive the land. Moving day. So, the plan began. Wildlife officials and conservationists set to work. They started by gathering beavers from areas where they were overpopulated and moving them to the dry high desert of Idaho. It was a bold and risky move, as beavers are particular about their environment. They need water, and they prefer trees like willows and aspens, trees that were rare in the desert. The beavers were transported in special crates, some of which were even dropped from planes, an unusual but effective method that had been used back in the 1940s. This wasn't just about relocating animals. It was a risky experiment to see if the beavers could help restore life to the desert landscape. The process of transporting these beavers to the desert was difficult, but the experts believed it was worth the risk. They knew that beavers had a unique ability to modify their environment in ways that no other species could, and they hoped that despite the harsh conditions, these beavers might be able to bring water back to the land. After the beavers were released into their new home, everyone had to wait and see what would happen. The first few weeks were uneventful. The desert landscape appeared unchanged. The beavers were getting used to their new surroundings. They cautiously sniffed around, nibbling on whatever vegetation they could find. Some beavers, not able to adapt to the harsh desert, quickly left, but a determined few stayed behind, eager to begin their work. At first, their activity was quiet and subtle. You could hear the soft rustling of leaves as the beavers chewed through branches, the light digging sounds as they started to build their dams. Then, slowly, something started to happen. Tiny pools of water began to form behind the dams the beavers had built. Water that might have otherwise run off or evaporated in the heat was now collecting in small pockets. These little pools weren't just puddles. They were the first signs of life returning to the desert. The water in these pools began to nourish the surrounding land. Slowly, plants that had nearly died off began to grow again. Willows, sedges, and other water-loving plants began to sprout. Over time, more plants began to appear. Soon, birds, insects, and frogs returned, drawn by the new water and shelter provided by the beavers. The dry, lifeless desert was slowly becoming a green, thriving ecosystem once again. The Beaver Effect. Beavers don't just build dams, they create entire ecosystems. The small pools of water created by the beavers began to grow larger. The water soaked into the ground, filling underground reservoirs and slowly raising the water table. This had an immediate impact on the surrounding area. In one valley in Idaho, the water table rose by several feet, and streams that had once dried up now began to flow again. Local ranchers, who had watched the land turn dry and barren, began to notice that their pastures were becoming greener. Their cattle had better access to water, and the land seemed to come back to life. The changes weren't limited to the local area. As the beavers built more dams, they created wetlands that attracted various species of plants and animals. In some areas, the number of species living in these newly formed wetlands doubled. These changes weren't just temporary, they were sustainable. The beavers had set in motion a process that would continue to benefit the land for years to come. The science behind DDECANG. Scientists were quick to take notice of the changes taking place in the desert. They arrived to study the area and found several important effects that helped explain why the land had come back to life. Water retention. The dams built by the beavers helped slow down the flow of water. Instead of the water running off and evaporating, it was allowed to seep into the soil, replenishing underground water supplies and helping the plants grow. Increased life. The new wetlands created by the beavers attracted a wide variety of plants and animals. Some areas saw the number of species double, as the new environment became a haven for different types of wildlife. Improved soil. The slow movement of water allowed sediment to settle, enriching the soil. This made the soil healthier, allowing plants to grow more easily. Additionally, the beavers helped store carbon in the soil, which is a key factor in fighting climate change. Fire protection. The wet areas around the ponds acted as natural fire breaks, preventing the spread of wildfires. These damp areas created by the beavers helped reduce the risk of destructive fires, which are a major concern in many parts of the world. The global impact. The success of the beavers in this desert holds important lessons for the world. What started as a bold experiment in Idaho is now inspiring similar projects in other regions. In Scotland, beavers are helping restore wetlands and manage rivers. In California, beavers are being looked to as a natural solution for reducing wildfires. Even in South America, scientists are studying the potential for beaver dams to revive damaged river systems. The idea is simple, yet incredibly effective. Rather than relying on expensive, high-tech solutions to fix environmental issues, we can harness the natural abilities of animals like beavers to restore balance to ecosystems. Once beavers build their dams and create wetlands, the process continues on its own, without the need for constant human intervention. A lesson. What can we learn from this incredible story? It shows us that sometimes nature has the power to heal itself, if we simply give it the right tools. Instead of pouring billions of dollars into large, expensive projects, we could allow beavers and other animals to do what they do best: build, create, and restore life to damaged lands. Beavers are not just building dams, they are rebuilding ecosystems, fostering the growth of plants, and creating homes for animals. These little creatures are proving that even the smallest beings can make a huge difference. So, the next time you see a beaver dam, remember, it's more than just a pile of sticks. It's a sign of nature's power, a promise that even the driest lands can bloom again. In a world of rising temperatures and worsening droughts, sometimes it takes a beaver to show us that nature always finds a way to recover. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share it, because sometimes the best engineers in nature have buck teeth and a flat tail. This story, once seen as a wild gamble, now stands as proof that nature can fix itself when given a chance. The beavers turned a lifeless desert into a lively green landscape. Their work challenges us to think differently about solving environmental problems by letting nature do what it does best. Their efforts are a powerful reminder of resilience, showing that sometimes the simplest solutions can have the greatest impact.